Over the past half a century, The Godfather Part II has become one of the go-to examples of a sequel that outdid its predecessor, along with The Empire Strikes Back, The Road Warrior, and The Dark Knight. But in its day, it wasn't necessarily a hit. It was commercially successful, but nowhere near the record-breaking blockbuster the first one was, and critics were divided. The acting and cinematography were praised across the board, and rightly so, but the narrative was criticized for being too slow-paced and convoluted. Stanley Kaufman of The New Republic lamented gaps and distensions in the story. Vincent Canby of The New York Times dismissed it as being stitched together from leftover parts of the original, and that it had no identity of its own separate from the first film. Roger Ebert gave the Godfather sequel a mostly positive review, but felt that the flashbacks dragged down the pacing and broke up the tension of the present-day storyline. The legendary Pauline Kael of The New Yorker, my personal favourite critic of all time, was an early champion of The Godfather Part II. Kael was the Lenny Bruce of film criticism. She went against the grain, she spoke her mind, and she revolutionized her art form. She became one of the most influential voices in American cinema. An ecstatic review from Kael could boost a little underground movie like MASH to massive success at the box office. Kael was a contrarian who often disagreed with the common consensus on a given movie. She championed movies all the other critics derided, like The Warriors and Last Tango in Paris, and she panned films that everyone else seemed to love, like West Side Story and Midnight Cowboy. In 1974, when Ebert was complaining about breaking the tension and Canby was pissing and moaning about reheated leftovers, Kael wrote that The Godfather Part II was far more complexly beautiful than the first, just as it's thematically richer, more shadowed, more full. When you go back and read it today, years after The Godfather sequel has been rightfully reappraised, Kael's critical assessment still rings true. The Godfather was the greatest gangster picture ever made, and had metaphorical overtones that took it far beyond the gangster genre. In Part 2, the wider themes are no longer merely implied. The second film shows the consequences of the actions in the first. It's all one movie, in two great big pieces, and it comes together in your head while you watch. I still remember the first time I watched The Godfather Part 2. I huddled under the covers with my laptop to watch my parents' DVD and stayed up all night, engrossed in the story. It didn't feel like 3.5 hours at all, even for a child in the wee hours of a school night, which is no easy feat for a grown-up drama. When I watched the first film on a rainy Sunday afternoon, I didn't really get it, but when I watched the second one on a long, cold school night, I got it immediately. The sequel spoke to me in a way the original didn't. So, without further ado, here's a dummy's guide to The Godfather Part 2. The Godfather Part II revolutionized the art of the sequel. It was the first movie to put a number in the title. The Godfather Part II paved the way for Jaws 2, Rocky 2, Toy Story 2, Halloween 2, Kill Bill Volume 2, Naked Gun 2.5, and Too Fast, Too Furious. Franchises were nothing new, but all the previous franchises had more creative names. Instead of Dirty Harry 2, we got Magnum Force. Instead of Planet of the Apes 2, we got Beneath the Planet of the Apes. And it wasn't just the titles. Back then, sequels tended to be self-contained standalone films, like the episodic adventures of 007. The Godfather Part II is so called because it is the second part of an ongoing story. It picks up where the first film left off and completes the story it began. It's the second volume of a continuing saga. The film also pioneered a new story device with its half-sequel, half-prequel approach, cutting back and forth between a sequel story set after the previous movie and a prequel story set before it. We've since seen this device used in everything from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 to Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. The Godfather Part 2 is really two movies rolled into one. The two storylines don't directly influence each other, but they do complement each other. They're in conversation with each other. The dual sliding doors timelines creates a tragic parallel between father and son. Vito's rise is contrasted with Michael's fall. The first movie was all about Vito's desperate attempts to keep Michael out of the family business so he wouldn't become like him, and it ended with Michael taking over the family business and becoming just like his dad.
Don't ask me about my business, Kate.
Is it true?
Don't ask me about my business.
No.
In the sequel, we see the aftermath of that dark transformation. For one half of the film, we're watching Vito sacrifice everything to create a life for himself in the land of hope and dreams. And for the other half, we're watching Michael descend into cold-hearted monstrosity. Michael's moral downfall is the direct result of Vito's rise to power. This is what it's all for. This is what he's working towards, turning his son into a monster. The The opening sequence sets the stage for Vito's story perfectly. We see young Vito Andolini in the old country, where a local mob boss murders his entire family and forces him to flee his home. As he arrives at Ellis Island, this little boy is given a new name and sent out on his own to make it in America. The medical checkup scene where Vito is surrounded by grown men highlights the true horror of his childhood. This kid has gone through things that would be traumatic for an adult, let alone a 12-year-old boy. This whole opening has the same effect as the opening of There Will Be Blood. In the first few minutes of There Will Be Blood, as Daniel Plainview is seeking his fortune underground, he falls, breaks his leg, and has to drag himself out of the mine and into the nearest town. From there, you're on this guy's side. You've followed him to hell and back, so no matter what happens, you're along for the ride. It instantly endears us to the character by showing us their spirit and their tenacity and the obstacles they've had to overcome. Vito's tragic origin colours the rest of his story. All the violence he commits later on, including his gruesomely satisfying revenge against the mob boss who killed his family, is the product of that harrowing childhood trauma.
Il padre si chiama Antonio Andolini e questo è Petit.
After that opening, we're reintroduced to Michael Corleone, the newly minted Godfather, at his son's communion, taking meetings with various friends and associates, just as Vito was introduced to us at his daughter's wedding in the first film. Drawing this parallel was a great way to highlight the differences in their leadership right off the bat. Vito commanded respect, Michael does not. Vito was like Paulie from Goodfellas. He didn't move fast,
but it was only because Paulie didn't have to move for anybody.
Michael is different. He doesn't have that kind of presence or reputation. Vito never had to talk tough or fly off the handle because his ruthless actions spoke for themselves. But Michael overcompensates with empty threats and temper tantrums that weaken his negotiating position.
I'll do business with you, but the fact is that I despise your masquerade, the dishonest way you pose yourself and your whole fucking family.
Vito put his family above everything, but Michael puts business first. Vito was firm but fair, but Michael is just firm, and it'll be his undoing.
Mike, I almost died myself. It was also relief.
In my home! In my bedroom where my wife sleeps! Where my children come and play with their toys.
My home, Elaine! Where I sleep, where I come to play with my toys.
As he flits back and forth between the two parallel timelines, Francis Ford Coppola uses poignant transition points to draw comparisons between Vito and Michael's stories. We see that they're both under immense pressure, just trying to do right by the people who depend on them. Michael's heartbreak over the news of Kay's miscarriage is contrasted with Vito helplessly watching over baby Fredo as he suffers from pneumonia. In both cases, these fathers have failed in their duty to protect their children due to forces out of their control. These transition points also highlight the differences between the two characters, namely that Vito was a much better father than Michael. We cut from Kay telling Michael she can't bear to have any more of his children, to Vito being a gentle, loving dad to young Michael.
I didn't want your son, Michael. I wouldn't bring another one of your sons into this world. It was an abortion, Michael. It was a son, and I had it killed because this must all end.
The Godfather looked at the dark side of the American dream, but Part 2 looks at the dark side of ambition and the corruptibility of power. It's a modern-day Greek tragedy, or rather an Italian tragedy, but it also slyly satirizes the thin line between legitimate business and organized crime as Vito sets up an olive oil corporation as a front for his criminal empire.
I know it was you, Fredo. You broke my heart. You broke my heart.
The iconic New Year's Eve party sequence is the midpoint of the movie, the point of no return. Michael figures out that Fredo is the one who betrayed him and gives him Il Bacio della Morte, or the Kiss of Death, marking him for an early grave. He won't do anything to hurt Fredo as long as their mother is still alive, but as soon as Mum dies, Fredo is screwed. It's the sequel's equivalent of Michael pulling out the gun in the restaurant in the first film. It's a turning point for Michael, the moment he decides that doing good business means more to him than his brother's life.
You broke my heart. You broke my heart.
The Cuban Revolution going on in the backdrop perfectly visualizes the strife between the Corleone brothers. Their explosive emotions are symbolized through the explosive background action, much like the fires of Mustafar burning around Obi-Wan and Anakin's climactic duel in Revenge of the Sith. When Tom Hagen goes to see Pentangeli at the army barracks, he cryptically tells him that in ancient Rome, conspirators who were caught plotting against the emperor were given the option to kill themselves to save their families from punishment. Pentangeli takes the hint, and later he's found dead in his bathtub with his wrists slashed. This is reminiscent of the story of Seneca the Younger, whose execution by forced suicide for his alleged role in the Pisonian conspiracy to assassinate Nero has been the subject of numerous paintings.
She promised she'd be there with me when I paint my masterpiece.
He slit his wrists and got in a bathtub, and due to his age and diet, he bled out so slowly that his wife joined him at his side and even tried to share in his fate.
So, and she's got alopecia, so not a happy home life.
Endings are notoriously tricky to pull off, but Coppola crafted one of the most perfect endings of a movie ever with the final scene of The Godfather. And against all odds, when he made the sequel, he did it again. The ending of The Godfather Part II is so poignant and satisfying and full circle that it would have been the perfect ending to the entire Godfather saga if Paramount had just left it as a two-parter like Coppola wanted.
What?
They informed me they're gonna do it with or without us.
I thought they couldn't do that.
Oh, they can.
The final flashback brings the two timelines together by meeting them in the middle, as the Corleones all gather for Vito's 50th birthday party, not too dissimilar to the pilot episode of Succession. It was a nice excuse to bring back James Caan, but the scene as a whole is a heartbreaking reminder that this big, loving Italian-American family is dwindling away. We're breaking bread with all these brothers who are no longer with us, like it's the end of the Iron Claw, and a heartbreaking reminder that Michael once had so much promise and potential.
Your country ain't your blood, you remember that.
I don't feel that way.
I don't feel that way. Well, if you don't feel like that, why don't you just quit college and go to join the army?
I did.
He was on a wayward path before a series of unfortunate events pulled him into the family business. This flashback shows us that Fredo is the only one who supported Michael when he dropped out of college to join the Marines, which makes it all the more tragic that Michael just had him killed in the present day timeline.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners.
As Vito arrives and the rest of the family go out to greet him and sing happy birthday, Michael hangs back and sits alone.
Come on. Stupid.
Back in the present, the camera pulls in on Michael, once again sitting alone, staring out at the lake, having just killed Fredo, taking it all in. Al Pacino says it all with his eyes. He hates what he's become, he misses the good old days, and he's just whacked the only brother he has left. Michael's two-movie transformation into a monster is complete. The nice boy we met at Connie's wedding in the first film is gone.
Something dark side. Something complete.
Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked the video. Remember to like and subscribe and click on the little bell. And also seize the day and call your mom and be kind to yourself.